Alright, I have a very good riddle for you all. What are two positive results that a teen never wants to hear? Pregnancy tests and COVID tests. Luckily for me, I can't talk to girls and I have no riz, so that first test isn't going to be a problem for me. However, we've all been very scared or nervous to get a positive COVID test result, whether it means we get sick or we get someone else sick or we miss an important event. All that anticipation and suspense relies on the result of this darn thing right here. But have you wondered how this kit actually works? Why does it want your boogers and your spit? And how do they make the lines appear on the test window? And what does this all have to do with COVID? Let's get into it. Hit it. Alright, so we got three main components of the Binax Now COVID test kit. First off, we got the swab. And the swab is used to extract samples from your nose, which are used to test for if you have a virus or not in your body. Second off, we got the extraction reagent, which is the liquid that you squirt onto your sample, and this is used to purify your sample and to try to isolate any possible presence of virus that can be tested and detected by the kit. Finally, we have the testing window, which is used to visualize the results of the test to determine if you have the COVID virus in your system or not.
So before the test window makes contact with the virus sample, and before any lines actually show up on the test window, it's important to note that there are actually two lines in the window, but they've not shown up yet because they're incomplete. These two lines consist of a distinct row of special Y-shaped proteins called antibodies. These antibodies are super good at targeting and attaching to specific particles. They're super clingy, but in a good way. So the top row is the control row, which is used to verify that the test is valid. The antibodies in this row are designed to bind to a specific particle called the anti-SARS-CoV-2 antibody. And this antibody is already in the liquid mix included in the kit, so it should bind to the row whether or not the virus is actually present in your snot sample. Additionally, the second antibody has a color particle attached to it, so when the binding occurs along the antibodies in the control row, you will see a colored line that appears to verify that the test is functional and that the result is actually valid. The second row tests for the actual presence of the virus. It is set up in the same way as the control row, except that the antibodies in this row are designed to target a part of the COVID-19 virus called the nucleocapsid protein. It targets the specific protein because it's a major antigen of the coronavirus, meaning that it's a sign to the body that this particle does not belong to the body. Therefore, when you mix the test window with the virus sample solution, the antibodies will be put into contact with the parts of the virus, and they can specifically bind to the COVID-19 nucleocapsid proteins. Additionally, the antibodies on the test row differ from the antibodies on the control row because each test antibody is linked to a colored particle. So if binding occurs, the colored particles accumulate at the binding locations, which causes a visible colored line in that test row, meaning you have COVID-19. If you don't have COVID-19, there will be no parts of the virus in the liquid samples for these antibodies to bind to. Thus, there will be no binding or accumulation of these colored particles, meaning you won't see a colored line in the test row, and that should beat the case.
Alright, enough of me talking. Let's see my test in action, baby.
When you first take the swab of your nostril, the swab is collecting a sample of mucus from your nasal cavity, which tends to be a very likely spot for the virus to be present if you're infected with it, because COVID-19 is known for infecting the respiratory tract. Now you really got to swirl it around in both nostrils to ensure that you get a sufficient amount of sample so that if there is a virus present, there's a better chance of it being detected by the test kit. Then, you have to open up the test card and squirt several drops of the extraction reagent into the sample well. After the squirting takes place in the well, you have to insert the swab into the well and rotate it for several seconds. The extraction reagent allows you to go from having full virus particles on the head of the swab to broken down parts of the virus in the liquid like one big soup. Still beats pea soup any day of the week because that stuff is just nasty. Damn! Bruh. Then you gotta close the card, let the virus sample make contact with the test window, and let that test cook for 15 minutes.
As you can see, only the control line showed up for me, and there was no test line that showed up for me, meaning that I tested negative and that I beat that case. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Feel free to show any support any way you want or can, and stay tuned because I got some cool stuff coming out this week. And stay cool and stay healthy, and that's all.